tell somebody.
This is the best thing I've ever seen.
That. Let's talk about that.
You need this. Listen to this.
Memorable and exciting.
Well, then be less boring.
I'm going to tell everyone. Wait here.
Mighty remarkable, Big Daddy.
Remarkable.
Welcome to Remarkable, a podcast for B2B marketers that deconstructs the most iconic moments in film, television, pop culture, and advertising for a single purpose: to give you, the B2B marketer, the same storytelling techniques that the pros use. In each episode, you will learn techniques from Hollywood, Pixar, Marvel, and beyond, from Spielberg's hands to yours, bringing remarkable content ideas to you every single week. I'm Ian Faison, CEO of Caspian Studios. This is Remarkable. This week, we're talking about B2B marketing lessons from the Great British Baking Show with the help of our special guest, VP of Corporate Marketing at Trellix. Sara, how are you?
I'm doing great, Ian. Thanks for having me. I'm super pumped to talk about baking and marketing.
Baking and marketing, two of the best things that are out there. Yeah, we're going to talk all about baking, going to talk all about marketing, content, brand, everything in between. So why the heck did you pick the Great British Bake Off?
Well, I don't know if you guys know, but the new season's coming out. So it's top of mind for me. I couldn't be more pumped. I think it's a time when my family actually gets together. We watch it together. And I think why we like it is just because it's like a feel-good show. I mean, yes, it's a reality show. It's a competitive show, but you definitely don't feel that way. And I think I'm in cybersecurity right now. We need that more than anything. It's been a rough couple months. The global tech outage that happened a little while ago, sometimes people forget we're actually working all together. We are, yes, you can say we're competitors, but we're on the same side. We're the good guys. We're fighting the bad guys. There's no question about that. Those are the hackers. And so I just feel like it really resonates with the baking show as well.
Fantastic. And we're going to get all into sort of your philosophy on collaboration, all that, which I think is really cool and unique. Zooming out for a second, tell us about your role at Trellix.
Yeah, may I zoom out real big and just say who Trellix is, because the name and the brand is relatively new. We launched in January of 2022, but we have a 30 plus year history in cybersecurity because we merged from Marketi Enterprise and FireEye. And I lead corporate marketing here. So I have an amazing team across PR, social, creative services, corporate events, exec comms, internal comms. We have the awesome job actually of, making sure we're building the brand, the awareness, engagement, and really supporting the culture growth of Trellix internally as well.
Meredith, what the heck is the Great British Baking Show?
So to start with, where the idea came from for the show, it came from this producer and showrunner named Anna Beattie.
That is Meredith O'Neill, our amazing producer extraordinaire.
I looked at what shows she'd done before and didn't recognize them. Maybe it's because I'm not in the UK, but she had done a show called Revealed, was her most recent show before this. And this was around 2009, 2010. And she had just spoken with a friend about the popularity of baking competitions in the US. And then also in the UK, there are these things called village fetes that have traditionally had baking competitions as well. And so there's sort of your village has a village green, and they'll have different events and different celebrations out there. And so that's sort of the fete, and part of that are baking competitions. And so Beattie said, I love the idea of village fetes in an old-fashioned baking competition with people who only wanted to bake a good cake. It was as simple as that.
I love it.
But all that said, it actually took a while for the show to get picked up. She pitched it for about 4 years before it was picked up by the BBC. And it was on BBC Two, which I didn't know is sort of a lesser than BBC One, right? And so even so, it was BBC Two. And so it was produced by Love Productions. Then it got put onto BBC One and then Channel 4 as it became more popular. It first aired in 2010, and it's actually credited with a nationwide rise in the UK in baking goods sales, which rose by 1.2 billion pounds annually. So since 2010 up through, current day. So people are wanting to bake things. People are wanting to eat baked goods. And I just think that's like so brilliant. And I love that. But a bit of behind the scenes trivia as far as like how contestants get on the show. So they apply and then they're put through a pretty rigorous slew of sort of hoops that they have to jump through. Part of it is there's a show psychologist who analyzes whether these 12 contestants or whether, the applicants can handle the sudden fame that comes with being on the show, because the show is huge and people are going to recognize them on the street and people are going to stop them and want to take pictures with them.
My mum told me not to cry. I cried 3 times yesterday, so...
So they're put through an audition. There are screen tests. There are a bunch of interviews, ability tests. There's even a credit and a background check before they can be on the show. And then as far as
Meredith, you should say, we also do for this show. So
right.
we have a psychologist, Sarah
That's
passed.
Right.
And might I say with flying colors, one of the top scores we've ever seen. So it's similar to this show.
That's right. Yeah. This is rigorous. It is to be on the show. As far as once the show is in production, there's a whole team, a home economics team that bakes all of the example bakes. So if you thought Paul Hollywood and Prue Leith bake all of the technical bakes while they're sitting there eating them, they do not. It's a whole other team that does that. This same team also sources all of the ingredients and tests the recipes. So they're super busy behind the scenes. And then if you've ever wondered who draws all of the illustrations of the baked goods while they're explaining each baker's explaining what they're going to make, that's an artist named Tom Hovey, and he's done the illustrations since the very beginning. But the whole idea of the show is we have these 12 amateur home bakers, so they're not professionals, and they come in each season to the bake-off tent. They compete for 10 weeks, and they usually do it on weekends. So you often hear what they do during the week for their job, and then they'll come into the bake-off tent on the weekend. And then each week, they name one star baker who's done very, very well. And then one baker is eliminated each week. Each week they face 3 challenges: the signature, the technical, and the showstopper. So there are 2 judges, and then there are 2 sort of presenters. The 2 judges currently are Paul Hollywood and Prue Leith, who are both professional bakers. Noel Fielding and Allison Hammond are the current presenters. And one thing about this is these people have had turnover over the seasons. And so one thing I was thinking of to equate it to content is if you are sort of rebranding, one thing that happened when I was so I love watching the show, but when Noel Fielding came on the show, I was like, who is this guy? Because he looks goth, right? He's such a different aesthetic than the previous presenters. Yeah. Where it took me a while to be won over by him. And now he's my favorite person on the show.
Can I hug you?
No, bye-bye.
Come on, I love you.
And yeah, it just took me a while to sort of get used to him. And so I think if you're rebranding, he's a good example of maybe what it takes. And I think a lot of it is just his character and his kindness and how human he is. And also his cheeky jokes about a fold in your dough that might look like a little butt crack and things like that.
No soggy bottoms here, Meredith.
No soggy bottoms. Yeah, I just love his sense of humor, and he's just so kind to everybody.
Do you know what was amazing, I think? You should pat yourself on the back. You started again and came third, and I was very impressed by that.
But yeah, it was just so interesting to see him come on the show, and I was like, who is this guy?
Double entendres are great.
Yes, I remember worrying a bit about your very large nuts, mainly because
they're so good. They're so good, especially because the show is so wholesome and so and it's funny, they've actually gotten complaints about what did they call them? Too, I don't know, edgy maybe,
racy.
Yeah, too racy, and so the showrunners were just it's just part of the flavor, Anyway.
Have you ever been in a kitchen? Come on.
Yeah, come on. But the series has won BAFTAs, it's won National Television Award, and many more. And it's also was the most popular series on the BBC, and it actually surpassed Top Gear, which is huge. And it reached millions of viewers. And in its sort of highest numbers, it had over 16 million viewers for the season 7 finale. So that is huge.
16 million.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy.
Super nuts.
In my nuts, I want some bigger bits because you want, obviously, a bite of
nuts.
But to me, like the things that stand out as far as like equating this to content is like, it's just so beautiful. Like you watch it and you're just like, you could just like live in the scenery, like the location, the decor, the way people dress, and the baked goods are all very beautiful. The music is very cheery. So I think that's like, if you make beautiful content, like I think people are going to be drawn to it. One thing like leadership wise, as far as like marketing goes, is like how the judges give feedback is so like, they always expect people to do their best. And like you hear them say like, this is not your best work, right? They're always sort of like urging people to do the very best that they can. And it's very rarely like negative. So I thought that's lovely. The diversity of contestants is really notable. I think it's and definitely like escapism watching the show. And then the other thing I would mention is that like there's a recipe to each episode that like the audience can expect. And so I think people look forward to that. They know what they're getting, and that's part of the appeal as well. And so I think if you have a recipe that works for you content wise, pun intended, I guess, not really, but then I think that then that's something that can really work content wise. But Sarah, I'm wondering like, what about the show? Like, how would you sort of equate the show to content and to marketing?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're spot on with how you just described it. And really the thing that comes out of that is just positivity. And that's just so refreshing. And so I think that's something we should all remember is like, we need to be fresh with what we do. And, you know, I think we can fall into some of our traps, like the same old things. And so just trying to be light and fresh. And we say something at Trellix, as we call it brand classy. And we say like, you can never go wrong with being brand classy, something that lives on, endures. You know, sometimes you want to like take a quick hit at a competitor or something like that, but that's not going to age well. And so to always be kind of brand classy in what you do is, I think it's just something that we should all take away. You know, just another thing, you talked about the different kind of segments that they have between the signature, the technical, and the showstopper. And for me, like the technical, I get like a little bit of anxiety because it really reminds me of crisis communications because like you don't have all the information.
Now, this is a bit of an unusual technical because Paul has given you no instructions on how to shape your bread.
But he's not a complete monster. He's going to do a demonstration for you instead.
The bakers, sometimes like the recipe that they're given, it's a surprise and it just says, make the dough. Right? Like it doesn't say how much of each ingredient or things like that. And it just really resonates with me because you're never going to have all the information you want.
Maybe none. Maybe no more. Maybe more blueberries. Yeah.
More?
No, none. I'm not putting in any.
Start again. Go back to square one.
Pull the whole thing off.
You got to rely on your experience and gut and kind of work through it.
I think that, you know, I like to start with the name. It is the Great British Baking Show. It is grandiose. It is massive. They have the huge tents. They have these tracking shots. They have these amazing floral arrangements. They have the artwork. Everything in this show is over the top, but not in a way that's like gaudy in any way either. It's just like shown lovingly. And like, I always like to, you know, pretend like I'm a television executive and get this pitch. And it's so unspectacular of a pitch. Like, we're going to make a baking show. Oh, well, what's the difference between other baking shows? Well, there's still contestants. There's 3 parts of the competition. People get voted off each week. And we're going to do it in a big tent. And there's 2 judges and 2 presenters. And like, it sounds the exact same as any other thing. Yeah. Whereas like you compare it to like a show like Chopped, where like Chopped is a really unique idea. This is not. The execution is 100% unique. And like, isn't that just like what a brilliant sort of, you know, thing to follow for marketers, right? Is like how you shoot it, how you create it, how you present it, the tone that you're going for, the visuals that you're going for, the heart and the soul of the thing that you're trying to do, that those matter far more than sort of the elevator pitch. And that's why it's so good. It's all those reasons.
Yeah, the heart or the motivation, something that's different about it too. It's like, oh, I imagine in that pitch to the producer about it's like, so what's the prize? Like, how much money are they going to win or what? It's like, oh, no, nothing. They're trying to get a handshake from one of the judges.
So close
I would have given a handshake for that.
Or to get a cake stand at the end. And that just shows to like the heart or the intent of it is just really good. There's people who want to get together and bake and eat some of their bakes as well.
Yeah, I mean, and to juxtapose it again with another very popular UK TV show, Love Island, where the point of that show is the polar opposite of this show. Like, it's to be famous in a way that is sort of silly and scandalous and funny and whatever. Not to say that one is better or worse than the other, but the idea is like this show is like, that's guilty pleasure sort of viewing. This is like the opposite of guilty pleasure. You know what I mean? It's like if you were like, I was binging Great British Bake Off this weekend, no one's judging you. No one, like, everyone's like, yeah, man, I get it. You need a little bit of that in your life.
I don't know though. If you're like me, I would also be eating a lot of cupcakes while watching it. So there's a little judgment there. How many baked goods I would eat. So
yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, I said on the show before that my wife was a chef and a baker in a previous life. So she has a very high bar for these type of shows. And she likes Great British Bake Off. And I think that because like even though there is pressure, obviously there's always pressure to do the thing, but it is just handled in a way that's just so pleasant and so positive and so collaborative. And I was thinking about this and I was like, I think that brand, that type of brand, collaborative, positive, all that just sounds downright impossible for a B2B company. Don't you think, Sarah?
I don't think so. I think it is so easy to do. In cybersecurity, a lot of people get nervous when they hear about it because I think, it's so technical. You can't physically see cyber. It's like the wind, not tangible. So like, it must be scary. A lot of the brands that are in the place, they use a lot of reds and blacks or militaristic terms to describe it. But that was the polar opposite of what we wanted to do at Trellix, even just in our color selection. Like, we chose blue and green because it's actually like the colors of nature and life. And we think that there is a new life that needs to be brought to cybersecurity, and you can do it with a positive view. And, even the tone of our brand, we call it the invigorating ally. We want to be your friend. We want to talk to you in terms that are understandable. We don't want to add to the complexity that people believe are in it. So I think it very much can be done. A brand can be positive in tech and in cyber in particular.
Yeah, we're going to dig super deep into how you sort of think about that stuff later on. But I had to get it in now because I think it's so important that like part of the reason why we do this show is for this exact reason. It's like, well, what if you could make your brand more like the Great British Bake Off? And like, that's something that you actually did and are doing and wake up every day and work on. And like, that's super cool and exciting and commendable. And it sort of just makes these lessons like that much more important. And it's like, why we do this? Because I think that there are like really good lessons from this show for B2B marketing. And we'll get into those now. One of the things that jumped out, and I talked about the visuals and the pageantry that they do. And it's just beautiful. And like, this is like such an obvious thing in marketing that just make your stuff beautiful.
Finish with style, right?
And it's something that we don't do a lot. Custom illustration, custom artwork, really cool shots, focusing on the beauty, focusing on positivity. Like, these are things that like you can tell the story with the camera. You can tell the story with your artwork. So rarely done. And I think that the way they do it on this show is extremely well done. And they do it with tension as well, right? So it's not just that, it's, oh, and by the way, you're going to watch someone's nerves like melt like a candle, on air, right?
Horrendous, traumatized.
And, like we sort of juxtapose like things like Chopped and sort of a bunch of the American shows where it's someone screaming at you and calling you an idiot and again, nothing wrong with those shows either. But because those are extremely popular as well. But like really being in the pressure cooker and really doing that stuff, whereas this is just not necessarily that way, but the pressure is still there all the same, right?
Just trust my instincts and just get on with it.
It's like there is an intrinsic motivation that we have to be good at our jobs that you don't need to necessarily add additional pressure on top of that with, like you said, the bad guys are swarming all around you. We know that they are. That's the whole reason why we're trying to defeat the bad guys, is because they are swarming all around you. But adding the extra pressure with all that other stuff isn't always needed.
Yeah, I don't know about you or any other marketers listening to this, but if you've ever tried to do like a presentation to someone and it didn't look good and all they can do is focus on like, well, that line looks a little bit off from this line. You're like, well, let's listen to what I have to say versus like the look of it.
Yeah.
So like looks do matter, but at the end of the day, you got to have a little substance behind it. Paul Hollywood always says one of his critiques is style over substance. So, got to make sure that your bake tastes good and also it needs to look good at the end of the day.
Yeah, and so you've developed this as a life motto as well, and a marketing motto. How do you work style over substance in your marketing?
Yeah, I mean, I think it all comes down to like you have to actually know what you want to say first before you start thinking about how beautiful or whimsical you want it to look. You will lose people and especially in cybersecurity, it's a very nuanced industry. If you get some terms incorrectly or you spell things wrong, phishing, if you spell it with an F instead of a PH, you're going to lose everyone. And so you got to really make sure that your core of what you're doing is sound. And then you can do all the fun things on top of it, the art of it, if you will.
Okay, what are your marketing lessons?
Yeah, I think we hit one a little bit in Crisis Comms, and that the technical challenge is like, you got to trust your gut.
That just seems wrong, doesn't it?
Just be comfortable with not having all your information. But another thing is about how you build resilience into your programs. The last challenge, that showstopper, you are supposed to go grandiose. It's like, think of the wedding cake building of it versus doing a cupcake. It's the big thing that they're going to end the show. And I really relate that a lot to like events. You plan and prep sometimes almost a year for a big event. Like one of ours is RSA conference. It's once a year, the largest cybersecurity conference in the world. Sometimes when you get there, things are aligned. A sign will break. Your main person that's supposed to be in there calls in sick. And so you really need to rely on the community you've built with your partners, your vendors, other people in your company that you can rely on. You yourself have to be the one that's ready to go up there and speak if someone, isn't able to. We had a big event and it was around COVID, and remember all the restrictions we had around then, and we'd make everyone test before they came in. And if you were positive, you could not join. And well, we got everyone under our tent for the event and we realized we were missing half the people. Well, those people were there, including myself. Time to step up and be the one that's on stage. And so you got to really be resilient in what you do. And then we talked about what makes the show great. One thing we haven't hit on is the storytelling aspect. You really identify and make memories with the bakers and the way that the show tells their backstory. You want to believe in them, basically. And so you feel really connected. And I think that marketers should remember the power of storytelling. A lot of times we want to go into stats and figures, but that's really not going to engage our emotional side of our brain, which is what we need to be persuaded.
Again, to use this sort of another juxtaposition here, you could make this show as remove every single thing about it and just do overhead cooking videos, right? Of like watching people make this stuff. You don't hear about their background. You don't hear about, the human side of this, where they come from, what they do. There would be no stakes and it would not be interesting, right? Like, the story is what makes the show so compelling. And you want to see these people do the things and be challenged, and you pick your favorite and you want to see them win. And again, they're getting nothing, right? You just want to see them win. And so it's like why like this type of game show works so well is there's a reason to listen to the end or watch to the end. And you get the human side of the story. And so much of B2B marketing misses the human side of the story, but it also doesn't have a reason to get to the end. So there's no reason to finish the blog post, right? It's like, I just stop halfway through the white paper. I'm like, I kind of am good enough. I think I got it. Or maybe you don't even download the white paper or, whereas if it's hey, listicle, 8 things that you need to do as a CISO before the end of the year. Then you're more likely to pay attention, all the way through the last thing. And there's a little bit more of a reason. And you go, well, this is tied to it. But then again, it doesn't have the human element, where if it's like, hey, these are the 8 things that, Sara did to prepare for the end of the year, and it's a list of 8 things. Well, and then the next evolution of that is these are the things that Sara did before the end of the year. Oh, and by the way, her kid is starting kindergarten or whatever it is. And so she had to balance that and like all these other things. But like then you start to like fill in this person and this story and all of the things that they have. And I think like common B2B wisdom would be like, leave all that crap out. But the Great British Baking Show, the reason why people love it is because it's all in there.
Yeah. And I think people think of B2B or you're marketing to a business. Well, guess what's behind the business? It's the person, it's the people, and or like the human factor. And humans are filled with emotions and they have preconceived, ideas in their head about how things are going to go. And we as marketers have to either lean into that when it benefits us or help break those when we need to. And yeah. I think a lot about, there was University of Pennsylvania did this study where they had 2 control groups and they were showing a brochure and it was for Save the Children. And in one of the groups, the brochure had all the statistics and things about, hunger and children in Africa. And then the other control group, it told a story of a little girl who was hungry. She couldn't go to school and all of the, trials and tribulations that go with it. And they were getting feedback in these 2 controls about the brochure. And they, as a thank you for their time, they each got $5. And they said, oh, by the way, if you want to actually donate to Save the Children, here's a box here. And they found those who had the story of the little girl got more donations into their box because people believed in it and they had that connection. The stats people, they're still good people. They donated to the, Save the Children, but not as high as the ones who had the story. So you got to remember that.
Any other thoughts?
I have so many thoughts. At the end of the day, I just think we've got to remember the human element behind everything we do. Let's not get lost in the business.
I had one other thought, which is that there have been like multiple spin-offs of the Great British Baking Show. Like there's a Great British Sewing Bee. I think there's a pottery one as well, but they haven't done as well. And like from what I've read, people are like, the audience likes the idea of baking being like more accessible than sewing or pottery. And that's kind of like why people are drawn to it. But I kind of wonder what all your thoughts were. Like, for me, it's like, well, it doesn't have the same personalities. Like, I love Paul Hollywood and Prue Leith. I love like the scenery. Like, I think it being in a tent is like core to the feel to the show and how everything is like decorated and comes together. And yeah, they're totally different. You know what I mean? But curious, Sara and Ian, what you guys think.
Yeah, I haven't seen those shows, but I do wonder if there's something just about like food being soulful to everyone and like it kind of, you make memories with food as well. And then also I wonder how the diversity of casting is. I think that's another reason why Great British Baking Show does so well is you can identify with them, whether you're a college student or you're a rugby player, a builder, a doctor. I think there's an intelligence analyst or a grandmother. There's everyone in between. And so I think you find that you can find a way to identify with someone regardless of who you are.
I think that people are just like obsessed with baking. So I think that is part of it. But to me, I think that, and those are all great shows in their own right. The thing for me, I think that like because of the tent, because of the way that it's like an event, the way that it's sort of like they put it all together and then they take it all down and there's just like this sort of, it's not on a sound stage. I don't know. There's just something about it that is different and unique. So there's something about it. I think it just has to do with food and preparation. And that's just, we all do it and we all bake and we all like eating sweet things.
Yeah. Maybe it'd be different if we sewed every day. Maybe we would identify more, but we definitely eat every day. So
I think also we all just connect with baking and cooking so much because we have to do it. And so you think, oh, I could make that maybe not, and especially because they're amateurs, But yeah, I don't know. It's a great question.
Yeah, I think it breaks like a wall down between you and them because they're not professionals. Whereas like Cake Boss, I would think like I would never attempt to try some of that stuff. Like, yeah, it's enjoyable, but I do like times I'm like, could I be on Great British Baking Show? And my husband reminds me that like Nailed It might be a better like show for me to bake on. But
Would you go on if you got the invite?
Heck yes. I mean, who wouldn't?
Meredith?
Would you go on?
Yeah, I think I would go on. Although there are so many things where they're like, sure, I know how to make a Genoese sponge or whatever. I don't know what that is. So yeah, I think I would probably, be kicked off on the first episode. But Ian, would you go?
I don't think I would. I am like really stressed in the kitchen. Everything's happening at the same time. It's all very stressful. I'm terrible at like all that different stuff. There's like certain things that I'm okay with. I just don't, my brain does not sort of like work in the way in which a recipe is. I'm very much an 80% guy. So like 80% I'm like good enough. And I'm also not a measure guy. I'm not very scientific. So yeah, for that reason, I'm out. I don't think I would do it. I would lobby very hard to have my wife do it. She would be awesome.
She is one hell of a baker.
Oh my God, thank you.
Amazing. That's one of the best cakes I've had for a long time.
Oh, wow.
I'm going to take some home with me tonight.
Oh,
That's
okay.
excellent.
But she's a professional, right?
That's
Yeah,
right.
so she's like doesn't really count. But that was a long time. It was a decade ago, more than that. So I feel like it. But yeah, no, I feel like I just need to challenge her more with crazier projects to see what she can do.
Send me some of those baked goods she makes. I'm down.
Yeah, same.
I know. It's pretty fun. Well, it's also like, do you want to live with that, right? Like every time should we maybe make something? And then I'm like, but do we need like 12 cinnamon buns at our house?
The answer is yes. Yes,
yeah, the answer is yes. It's unequivocally yes.
No. I mean, I think it all depends too on how you grew up. Like I'm Persian and I think like my family shows love during food. And it's like more anxiety would be given to us if we thought there was not enough food to feed people. So therefore, I now cook for an army, for a family of 4. And my family's just learned to live with it. And, we just kind of roll with it.
Yeah. You also have to have a really good memory, which I have a really good like story memory, but not like a memorization memory. And I think that that's also part of it. Maybe there's a marketing lesson in there too. But that's like always been a huge problem for me is like, I just like can't remember how to do anything in the kitchen. I'm like, I don't know the difference between, the mother sauces, so, I don't know the difference between a roux and a whatever. So it's just like, it's hard to like memorize all that stuff. And that's the part where if you like learning about all that and,
That's true. It has to kind of be your passion behind it. Like, I don't think anyone's just like coming off the street and they're like, guess what? I'm going to go on Great British Baking Show. They have to be like someone who like to dabble, like in their free time, they're reading recipes. It has to be a core like foundation there first.
Well, I think that this is actually, we've worked our way into another marketing lesson, which is finding people that are passionate about the thing. I mean, I'm sure that you, Sarah, I know you do work with those type of people because I've met some people on your team. I think it's so important to find people that are passionate about what they do. Like it's so incredibly, because this is work. You got to show up to work. Work is not fun inherently, right? Like you have to do it. Anything you have to do is never going to be super fun. So you got to find people that are passionate about the topic. And I love working with cybersecurity people that are passionate about the topic. Like our team is super passionate about storytelling. And when we get to work with creative marketing teams. So like, I do think they do an incredible job screening the contestants because like other shows don't do that, right? Like other shows, they want to find the like total screw up person, like that's the point of, so many different shows is like find someone who's the craziest, zaniest person you can find.
The producer plant, that one where you're like, are they there because they deserve to be there? Or are they there just because you want to see a little bit of cray? No, I feel so strongly about like working with people who want to be there because they enjoy it versus because they have to. And I think, that shows with a lot of people on my team. You can teach the things, like people can learn how to do stuff. But if you don't have like a core passion and like belief system there, it's going to be a hard grind,
Okay. Tell us a little bit more about your strategy and how you think about building brand for Trellix, which again is a new brand, combination of 2 very, very famous cybersecurity brands, and you built something new.
Yeah, I think a big part of that was, I mean, it's a noisy space. So how do we cut through the noise? And a lot of that was be different, be unique. Don't go with everything we've seen out there, which is, I think, a common trap because you think you can move quicker, but we really wanted to build something special. And I think, we treated our brand development and launch externally, we treated it internally as important. We wanted to make sure that we are bringing everyone along on this journey because they are part of it. And we didn't want to just force like a culture on people. The culture was there. It was developed by the people of Trellix. We call them Team Trellix. And we just had to support and bring that out. And that's how we developed a lot of our core values, our mission and vision. We're really lucky at Trellix. We have a data-driven CHRO. And I remember in the first couple of months, he would sit in meetings and he would listen to the words people said. And he would write down when words were said multiple times. And then he would kind of go back and he'd be like, we talk a lot about being open. Like, what does that mean? Open for our products, open for our customers, open for, internally. Like this seems to really be driving and a core value for us. And that is how we developed our values. It wasn't like someone went into Chat GPT and were like, Trellix corporate values, create them for me. It really was developed by the people. And so another thing is just we're going to be 3 in January. So for a brand, you got to evolve. So this calendar year, we rolled out an evolution of our brand, the look and the feel, still staying consistent to when we launched, but adding a little variety, adding in some colors and from our secondary palette into our overall brand, so we were blue and green. Now we mix a little fuchsia in there and get a little crazy, but it's a lot of fun.
And what about, ROI and how you think about that?
ROI. Marketers love to talk about this because it's so easy. No, I think it really comes down to setting clear goals. A lot of times, especially when it comes on the brand side, as opposed to the demand side of marketing, it isn't super easy to see and have metrics. So it's really important to set clear goals from the start so you can see if you're succeeding or not. We constantly have this conversation about to gate or not to gate. That is the question, right? When we have a new piece of content, a new ebook, and it's, we're like, well, we've got to put this out there because it's, what our audience wants to know about. And let's get it out there. So, it's part of thought leadership. And then people are like, well, if we don't gate it, we're not going to know who those people are. We can't put them into our machine. And so we're always in that constant struggles. And another thing is, I really look at the reusability of our content. I love when we can write something that then we can do our video from, and then we can do cuts of that video, and then we can take quotes from it and it goes into social. I mean, just the reusability of content, I think, is how you prove your ROI as well. You get a lot from a little.
You also do these weekly tech talks, which I think is cool, sort of like a weekly webinar. As a Trellix Weekly, you clearly think about, content in sort of a serialized fashion. Just curious how you do that stuff.
Yeah. Timing is kind of everything. We want to keep our audience engaged. In this day and age, people move at things really quick. So we want to make sure we have touch points with our audience. So whether it's through a weekly tech talk or a monthly series that we're putting out on LinkedIn Live, or if it's our newsletter, that's a combination of all of our research blogs we've already put that out quarterly. We want to make sure that we've got a touch point that we're keeping people engaged and in new information. Engagement's really just about attention and thinking. And so we want to make sure they're thinking about us and we're capturing their attention in the sea of same that's out there.
Have any crazy investments or things that you're super proud of or favorite content that you've done over the past couple of years?
There's so many actually. Today we're putting together kind of a book of all the things we've done since launch. And so it's really we're going down a journey of all of our favorite memories. And, we've kind of been hitting on this a little bit about positivity and, what we do in cyber. But when we launched Trellix, one of the first things we came out with was this whole concept around soulful work. We believe that cybersecurity is purposeful, mission-driven work. You think about protecting water systems, protecting insulin pumps in hospitals. Like there is life and death that comes with the things that we do. And we believe that if people knew more about it and had more awareness about it, they'd want to come in. And by the way, there's a huge skills shortage. ISC Squared puts out, an annual report on the workforce, and they're saying it's 4 million short right now. So we believe by bringing more awareness and highlighting stories of the good work people do in cyber, they'll want to join us. And so Soulful Work was a campaign where we had video activations. We pulled people into a little booth and we asked them, why do you do this? We got some really great little vignettes out of there. We have an ebook. We actually created this more for the industry. It's not a Trellix thing. So we partnered with nonprofits. We put together brand guidelines, brand books, assets that anyone could use. And so now it's getting out there. People talk about soulful work and, we hope we're making a difference and kind of bringing that 4 million down.
You've also won some awards, won a Gold Stevie for your work on a campaign.
Yeah, awards help kind of showing how our work's doing. So yeah, one of them that we won this year was for our work around Mind of the CISO. And CISO, Chief Information Security Officer, they're one of the coolest people in your company if you have one, because they are responsible for kind of the security of your company. And a lot of times you don't hear about them. You hear about them when something goes wrong, which kind of is a sad thing for them. It can be very lonely, but we survey 2 times a year, over 500 CISOs globally. We do it through the survey, and we also do interviews so that we can actually hear what they want to say. So it's qualitative and quantitative content piece that we put out into an ebook, and, kind of mentioned about reusability. We use quotes from that. Our keynote, my CEO, when he talks about it, he uses it a lot. And I think it really serves a couple purposes. One, it helps us keep on the pulse of what this really important job role, being a CISO, what they need and want. And then also it's another touch point for people to see kind of the work that Trellix is doing. So yeah, it won gold for the PR Communications Campaign of the Year.
Amazing. Yeah. What else? Any other cool stuff?
Let's see. I don't know if you've had these moments where you're like, I can't believe I'm doing this and it's my job. But, I
Every
mentioned
day.
yeah. The largest conference of the year, RSA conference, we have a keynote every year. And this year, brainstorming with our CEO and our amazing CISO, Harold Rivas, what we wanted to talk about. And, usually it's we're going to talk about something technical or something like this. And both of them are dads and they're really into Taylor Swift. And so we actually had a whole keynote around the eras of cybersecurity, and we related it to Taylor Swift's eras and, kind of the confusion, Taylor, is she pop? Is she country? Same with cyber. Are you IT? Are you something else?
Yeah, right.
And so we wrote a whole keynote with Taylor Swift at the core of it. And I cannot believe that I did that as part of my job. So I'm proud of that one. And I still can't believe we did it.
What's next? What's next for Trellis?
So many things, as a company, we're privately owned, we're targeting growth. From a marketing standpoint, something I'm excited about is we're in brainstorming mode. I was talking with Meredith earlier, I can't believe it's reached that part of the year where now you're thinking about 2025 or the next year. It just seems like the end of 2024 is going to kind of just spiral down after you get through all the holidays and such. So we're in brainstorming mode. Every year we do kind of a brand anthem or hype video for the company. The first year we did one that was really around the theme of Be the Revolution. And it was a toggle on our marketing campaign that was on XDR evolution. So as technology was evolving, what do the people need to do? And that's be a revolution, ask for change. So that was really cool. Then this year it was all around believe and belief. And it's we do hard stuff because our customers believe we can and they trust us to do it. And so now we're brainstorming what is our theme for 2025 that we're going to build our anthem or hype video around. So I always get energized and jazzed when I can bring, be around great people, creative people, and we kind of just spitball. That's enjoyable to me.
Me too. That's the best. When you're working, because, we're like a, pseudo agency studio type place. And so when you get a team that's just creative, oh my gosh, it's the best. You just sit there and you're just like chucking stuff against the wall and whatever. And sometimes something gets made and sometimes it doesn't, but it's just like, it's so exciting and invigorating. And you're like, gosh, it's great.
Yeah. And how awesome is it when you I don't know, you can just know you're going to a time where there's like no plan, there's no agenda. And then all of a sudden you leave with like awesome ideas, maybe some bad ones, but some awesome ones trickle in.
I hope some bad ones. This is the best part.
Yeah.
We did season 2 of Murder in HR, and we finished recording in LA a couple months ago. And I was interviewing Ben Schwartz, who's amazing. And he was like, I can't believe we made a thing. Like, we started off the day, we didn't have the thing made, and we left and we made it. And he's like, in Hollywood, you just like never get to do that. And really, like in life, you never get to do that. And I was just thinking about how cool of a thing that is, of like when you have a team that like makes a thing together like that, especially when you do something in a day. And it just sort of, it's just inspiring to just think of like what you can make in a day. Now, obviously, we wrote the entire thing for months and months ahead of that recording. But yeah, anyways, it's just, that's exciting. And it's just always something that I will cherish.
That's awesome. Yeah. And you should talk about those successes and create that book in your head or even a physical book of all those moments, because like they're awesome and you should be proud of it.
Okay. Final thing. What is your best advice for a marketing leader out there who's trying to figure out their brand content strategy?
Yeah. I mean, I think you should ask yourself, what is your story and why are you doing this? And I think when you answer those questions, you'll make different choices than if you were to never ask that. And I think, we hit a lot on the power of storytelling and the emotions behind it. And I mean, it's science. It's how our brains work. So what is your story? Make sure you know that and tell that story simply.
Sara, amazing chatting with you today. Thanks so much. Huge fans of what you're doing. Huge fans of collaboration. We are all in this together to go catch the bad guys. Any final thoughts? Anything to plug?
Just thank you so much. I appreciate it. And looking forward to chatting more in the future. So
indeed, I'll be by your table later to see what you got working on. Thanks again, everybody. Check out Trellix. Go give your CISO a nudge and tell them to check them out. Thanks, Sara.
Take care.
Well, that's it for today. I hope you got some good ideas for your B2B content. Thank you for listening to Remarkable. I'm Ian Faison, CEO of Caspian Studios. Remarkable is created by the team at Caspian Studios, B2B podcast as a service. Caspian also creates fiction series for B2B companies, so if you want a business thriller, you can learn more at caspianstudios.com. Hollywood-style storytelling for B2B. And in today's episode, you heard from myself, Ian Faison, and Meredith O'Neill, senior producer here at Caspian Studios. Remarkable was produced this week by Meredith O'Neill, mixed by Scott Goodrich, and our theme song is Solomon by Falak. Be remarkable and rise above the noise.